Hello everyone, I am Angelika Kargulewicz. I am PhD and clinical nutritionist, and if you are interested in healthy nutrition and nutritional tips, please stay with me. Nuts are definitely a valuable addition to our daily diet, but the question is whether all nuts equally are recommended and beneficial to our health. Nuts are a treasury of important fatty acids, especially unsaturated fatty acids. And when we talk about fat, we should also bear in mind their susceptibility to rancidity and also the exposure to external factors like light, air, and moisture. Therefore, the consumption of the shelled nuts, which are sold without the shell, will be at risk for the consumer. And even if we talk about the nuts which are sold in the supermarket, so-called nuts by weight, they may pose a real threat for the consumers because they are exposed to external factors and also sold in uncontrolled conditions. So the best practice is to buy the nuts with the shell. And of course, when we buy them, we get rid of the shell, but the nuts should be eaten with the peel. The peel, it is a part of the nuts which is found under the shell, and in the peel we can find the richest source of the polyphenols, which are so important to our health. It is also not so good to buy nuts in a large packages. I know that sometimes it can be attractive because buying larger packages, it may be cheaper. But why this is more advisable to buy nuts in a small unit packages? Because we will eat them faster, so the risk that the product will spoil is much lower. Another big problem is eating moldy nuts. Mycotoxins are secondary metabolites of the toxigenic fungi, many of the genera Aspergillus, Penicillium and also Fusarium. Aflatoxins are mainly formed by the species Aspergillus flavus and Aspergillus parasiticus. And what is the biggest problem with aflatoxins? Unfortunately, they are carcinogenic, which means that they can damage liver, kidneys and also central nervous system. So when buying the nuts, consumers should check how the food is stored, and the storage conditions are very important. They should be cool, safe, dry, and also airtight packaging is paramount. When it comes to the specific smell of the nuts, like the odor of the mold, you should bear in mind that when you feel the odor of the mold, you should throw away the whole packages of the nut, because even if you do not see the mold, it is very common that in the whole packages the nuts are moldy, so you should throw it away. Another worse option is to eat roasted nuts. But why? Because the process of blanching and frying the nuts reduces the polyphenol content and antioxidant activity. So it is the most advisable to eat them in the least processed state as possible. Then you will provide all the valuable ingredients. It is also not so good to eat nuts in caramel, crunchy sprinkles, or for example in chocolate. But why? For example, eating nuts in caramel, they contain sugar and so-called advanced glycation end products. And advanced glycation end products have pro-oxidant properties. They disrupt the carbohydrate metabolism, and also they harm the vascular endothelium, which is especially important for people, for example, with kidney disease. And why eating nuts in crunchy sprinkles, crunchy shell is so bad for us? Because in addition to advanced glycation end products, they also contain acrylamide, and acrylamide has a potential neurotoxic effect. And also this substance has been recognized by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as a probable human carcinogen. And why not the nuts which are in chocolate? Because very often the used chocolate is of low quality, and the producer very often add glucose fructose corn syrup, which can cause obesity and diabetes. Not a good option is also salted nut. Why? Because of the excessive salt content, which can cause edema and also increase the problem with excessive body weight. And we should also bear in mind that eating salty nuts can also cause sodium-dependent hypertension and also increase the desire for the snack. So the question is, which nuts are the healthiest? Of course, those which are raw and unprocessed. For example, walnuts. Walnuts present the highest content of the omega-3 fatty acids, especially alpha-linolenic acids. And also I would like to mention about the most favorable omega-6 to omega-3 ratio and also the highest content of the polyphenols. It is very beneficial to eat walnuts during non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because walnuts can decrease the level of the steatosis and also decrease the markers of the inflammation. It is also very healthy to eat almonds and peanuts, of course the unsalted version of those nuts. Why those nuts, almonds and peanuts? Because they are relatively high in protein, especially when it comes to some important amino acids like arginine, which is involved in the synthesis of nitric oxide with vasodilatory properties, which in turn can decrease the blood pressure. Almonds are also rich in dietary fiber and calcium, and for example 30 grams of almonds, which means like 2 tablespoons of the almonds, provide around 4 grams of dietary fiber and also 70 milligrams of the calcium. On the other hand, peanuts are especially abundant when it comes to folic acids, which is crucial for the good functioning of our brain. Brazil nuts are very rich in selenium but also in magnesium, and for example in 100 grams of Brazil nuts we can find even 376 milligrams of the magnesium. Pecans are rich in antioxidants, and for example hazelnuts are very rich in vitamin E. In 100 grams of the hazelnuts we can find even 33 milligrams of the vitamin E. Pistachios provide significant amounts of tocopherols, carotenoids, phytosterols, as well as potassium. Cashew and pine nuts provide a lot of non-hem iron and zinc. They provide around 6 to 7 milligrams of zinc and non-hem iron for each 100 grams of those nuts. In general, nuts are recommended for the prevention of cardiovascular disease, including hypertension, dyslipidemia, and also insulin resistance and diabetes. The most scientific evidence of a relationship between consumption and reduced risk of cardiovascular disease has been found for walnuts, almonds and hazelnuts. Why hazelnuts, walnuts and almonds? Of course, because of the low content of sodium together with the high content of cardioprotective components like calcium, potassium and magnesium. And it is advisable to eat a variety of different nuts on a daily basis, at least 30 grams per one day. As you can see, eating raw and unprocessed nuts is always a very healthy option, but we should minimize the consumption of the salted nuts, the nuts which are coated with the caramel and those which are moldy. If you like my video, please leave the like and please subscribe the channel, and I hope that we will see in the next episode.